Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. I'm Francis Seeley from GlobalNet 21 and from Enfield Voices, and this is one of the many webinars that we do that look at issues that affect us all. Now, one of the issues that affect us all is food security and food sustainability. And that's what we're going to look at today, and at a particular project with a lady called Emma Lundie, who you'll see in a minute. In fact, you'll see her now. And a project she set up around the whole idea of food security and food sustainability by developing a very interesting network called the Food Gatherer. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Anyhow, Emma, thank you for joining us. And it's great. Sorry we were a bit late, everyone. We had a few technical problems, but hopefully we're here now. Anyhow, Emma, thanks for joining us. And maybe we could start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Hello, everybody. My background, well, I didn't work in food previously. It's something I stumbled into when I moved into Enfield. I actually came from a charity background, worked in a human rights organisation, so something completely different. But things changed when I moved into the area and discovered I had a passion for food anyway, and loved, just always had an interest. But then when I moved into the area, I discovered an amazing sort of group of producers and independent shop owners who really inspired me. And from a sort of a germ of an idea about how we could work, everyone could work together in a positive way to kind of promote each other, I sort of came up with the idea for the Food Gatherer. And several years down the line, it's kind of morphed through different stages. But it's been a really fantastic privilege to be involved with and be involved in the food community in Enfield.
Okay, well let's talk about those things as we go along. I mean, but you've always been interested in things that relate to society and social conscience, haven't you? I mean, you were in London Met before, and you were involved in research on prisoners of conscience. So you've always had that particular interest, haven't you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I suppose I've always had an interest in people and I suppose an awareness of a social responsibility in what we do. That's always been, I suppose, a running theme throughout my career in whatever form it's taken me. Yeah.
Oh, your passion though has been really, though, hasn't it? It's been wine and food, and that's sort of driven you. I mean, what's created that particular passion?
Oh gosh, it just comes from just childhood and I think really it's about gathering. I mean, the Food Gatherer came of just my love of gathering people together around food, gathering food literally in my kitchen, cooking, and gathering people around to eat it. So that's something that's always been part of my life. So I suppose I've just taken that love and taken it into a bigger scale, and the joy of seeing people enjoying good food and coming together to do that is, I suppose, what drives me.
But doing that in a sustainable way, in a way that tackles food security maybe in the future, how important do you think that is in a time not just like COVID, but in the future of climate change, when there's going to be huge pressures on food production?
Yeah, it's hugely important. We especially as we're seeing, the way we've all locked down, we can't rely on food being transported across the planet. We need to be more self-reliant on a local scale, and that doesn't necessarily mean sort of just being totally inward looking and sort of not looking at what's outside our doorstep. But in terms of food, I think it's drastically important that we are conscious of where our food comes from, and the more that we can tap into locally on what's being grown in our neck of the woods, then that can only be a good thing for environmentally and economically as well, from a local economy perspective. It's very important.
Okay, so you started the Food Gatherer, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but you're also the head of operations at 40 Hall Vineyard, aren't you? Tell us about that.
Oh, well, okay, that it's a job that I sort of stumbled into very happily over at, I first went to work at the Vineyard, doing helping with some of their communications and marketing work as kind of part of the Food Gatherer kind of network, and the role just I just fell in love with the place. It's just an amazing example of an organisation which has a true social conscious, environmental conscience. And makes really good wine as well. I mean, it's just an incredible place full of incredible people, and to have that in Enfield is just, it's just, and to be involved with it is an absolute privilege. So when the role came up as head of operations there, I sort of took upon it with some trepidation, because it was, so the Vineyard was founded by this incredible woman called Sarah Vaughan Roberts 11 years ago, who just did an amazing job of setting up this incredible organisation. So when the job came up, I was like, oh my goodness, how can I take this on? But it's been an absolute joy, even during COVID and all the challenges that we've had there.
You obviously produce wine, and you're a social enterprise, and you do it for profit, but social enterprises are about social good as well. And you do a lot of work through that around mental health and well-being, don't you? How do you do that?
Well, we run an ecotherapy project. So volunteer, so you can volunteer as part of the project and come and work in the vineyard throughout the year, just working outdoors in green space, working through the seasons, working together to produce something amazing, building a network of friends, and just being part of that is good for the mental health, just being outdoors in green space. And we also have ecotherapists who work alongside each group, who are there to support. It's just a really nurturing environment that anyone who steps into it feels the benefits in their mental health. I think it's a really special place, and there's lots of and now it's increasingly evident that being outdoors in green space is good for the mental health, and we're sort of one of the pioneering organisations involved in that movement.
Well, I mean, I've heard that a lot of people get great benefit out of being there, and for their mental health, it's very important.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the operations manager for 40 Hill, but you've also started before that, the Food Gatherer. Tell us what the Food Gatherer is.
So the Food Gatherer is a network of producers, shop owners, independent shop owners, and restaurants and cafes who all want to work collectively to improve their sustainability, to network with each other, to supply each other, and And so there's that element, but also the food gatherer is about sharing those people with the local community. So that we initially, when it started, it was a home delivery service, and I would literally go around collecting. Well, I created a website which was kind of like a supermarket, online supermarket shop, but it was. But all the local producers and restaurants and shop owners were on that, and then people could click on, order, and then I'd go and collect the produce and then deliver it to homes. And it not only enabled people who maybe were working and couldn't get to their local shops to have a delivery of local food, but it also created a bit of a buzz around what was going on in Enfield and the food that was on offer there. And it just became I suppose a marketing platform for all of them to be able to showcase what they were, and then it encouraged people to go and shop in their shops as well. So not only online via the food gatherer, but through but people then were beginning to visit their shops more. So that was great. And then I started to think, well, what is it? How can I bring more people to enjoy our local produce? And it became sort of increasingly obvious that the best way of doing that was by creating events. And I was working up in partnership a lot with Forty Hall Farm, and which immediately lent itself as an amazing location for creating events. It's a place that's really a hub of good local food production. It was a natural place for the food gatherer to start organising events. So I've been working in partnership with them for a good few years now, and it started off with the Enfield Food Festival. And it was just a really great way of bringing lots of people together to enjoy local food. And I suppose the food gatherer is about it's not about saying you need to stop shopping at the supermarket, you need to start buying local, and sort of making people feel bad and judging people for their food choices. It was about creating a positive environment in which people would want to engage and celebrate what was on offer, and to feel pride in what was being produced in our area, and just to enjoy it, just to come together and enjoy what was on offer. And it was all about creating a lovely community atmosphere that's cohesive and democratic, accessible. I mean, and changing the Enfield. We had the annual Enfield Food Festival for a few years, but that's morphed into a monthly farmers market, which actually for me was a much more democratic approach, because it was free entry, and it meant that more people felt able to just come along and enjoy what's on offer.
I mean, you have the events, which are great. I mean, the festival and the farm market, and those developed out of the food gatherer and the place that you worked in the farm and the vineyard and so on. But you actually began, didn't you, as a sort of hyper local food hub, delivering food through the London Borough of Enfield. Is that right?
Yeah, that's how it started. It was, literally people used to be able to click online, order the food that they wanted, whether it's from Hot White's Bakery, veg from Forty Hall Farm, health foods from the Village Whole Food Store, or lots of different little places that at that stage weren't necessarily so well known. Now, some of these places are really well known through Enfield, and you mentioned Hot White's Bakery and everyone goes, oh yeah, lovely bread. But at that time, these independents were fairly young, and so the food gatherer, I suppose, was part of bringing exposure to these places through the delivery service and marketing it through social media.
So when you started in the States to get the network of various retailers and producers together, how did you go about doing that? I mean, how did you make contact with them? And in fact, did you get any resistance from some of them because they thought this is competition?
Well, I'm just a believer in just talking honestly to people and just chatting. So, it came from a place of me going to them anyway. So I'd go and shop there because I just enjoyed it, and just building up relationships with these producers and retailers. So I suppose there was an element of trust that, I was kind of there with good intentions. I don't really, no, I didn't really have any. I think I was a little bit nervous when I first, because I came up with the idea and I pitched it basically to, I got some funding from an organisation that's part of Enfield Council, and I had to pitch the idea. So before I pitched the idea, I had to go and speak to these producers and retailers, and I was a little bit nervous that they might go, yeah, right, but no, I didn't. I was, I think if you come up with a positive idea and you just talk, and just be honest and say, I'm just coming up with this new idea. Do you want to join me on this ride and see where it goes? And people were just, very receptive to that.
Well, that's sort of exciting part, isn't it? When you go and meet people and they say yes, and it sort of adds the enthusiasm to what you're doing. Yeah. Now, you developed all these things, but on top of that, you developed the Enfield Food Forum, haven't you? And what is that?
So that is Enfield Council, who I have to say have been they really have been doing incredible work around food sustainability, and they approached my colleague at 40 Hall Farm and me to propose that we organised a food forum, and which they would support financially in order for us to do that, to create an official network that we could tap back into the council for their support, and to organise, monthly meetings, monthly, bi-monthly meetings of food producers, so that we could come up with ideas together to promote each other, and to really, to provide a sort of a mutually supportive environment in which people could, from that, they could start having conversations about supplying each other, whether it's a restaurant, buying in from the farm, or a street food trader then wanting to, maybe do a pop-up at one of the restaurants that was involved in the food. So it just created a sort of a very sort of, I suppose what you would call a circular food economy is the aim, in which we can all kind of support each other and feed into each other. It's just very positive environment, and also about creating healthy, promoting healthy food, encouraging seasonal, using seasonal produce in restaurants, and just coming up with some strategies around that, reducing food waste. But that circular economy that you're creating, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because it combines local produce with the digital age, online shopping, and that combination. Do you see that as a model for other producers and retailers as we move forward in a way of, revitalizing the high street as well? Well, I think, I think we're all having to look at other ways in which we can adapt, especially at the moment. And online deliveries and home deliveries are, are huge. And people are having to do all sorts of things to survive at the moment. But out of that, I think people are really coming up with all sorts of ingenious and really interesting ways of getting their food to people. Yeah. But it doesn't beat actually meeting up in person.
Well, yeah, I can see you're a meeting up in person type of lady. So yeah, I understand that. But it also helps in terms of emissions, carbon emissions, doesn't it? Because, you know, cars don't have to travel to supermarkets and whatever, they get delivery. Has that sort of crossed your mind that it helps the climate change agenda as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. If you can, you know, got one vehicle picking up your produce from all the independents and delivering it to a home, that's just one car. So that's perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if it's all coming, you know, if all the produce is coming from as local as possible, it's all being made locally as well. I mean, there's, you know, you're reducing all the miles there. I mean, it's just, yeah, absolutely, that's a consideration. Yeah.
Have you sort of considered that what you're doing is innovative in the sense that you're offering a 21st century modernistic vision around very traditional activities, and that is an incredibly powerful combination?
That's interesting. Yeah, because it's very interesting to say that, because when the Food Gatherer first started, I had in my mind that sort of the idea of, you know, the traditional kind of the home deliveries that used to happen, you know, many decades ago, from the local butchers, that, you know, on the bikes, and that actually, it was an image that I found, I think, through the Enfield Society. There was an image of a butcher's bike, and with all the produce in the front, and actually that was for me a really sort of powerful image, and something that I wanted to kind of recreate around in a very modern way. And in fact, I bought a bike, an old bike with a basket on, as my kind of part of my marketing exercise. And when I used to go out and promote the Food Gatherer, I used to take that basket full of produce. So although I was actually delivering in my car, the idea of that kind of old-fashioned delivery style from local shops, where you know the people, and then that was the other thing. It's about keeping the connection with the actual. So although it was it was going online, yes, it was a very sort of 21st century kind of concept. It was really important to me that I kept alive the people who are making it, so telling their stories and celebrating them. So it wasn't about, you know, shouting about the Food Gatherer. It was shouting, you know, what I wanted was to showcase the people who are making it, because they're also passionate about what they do, and that's the difference between them and what you get on offer at the supermarket. You know, that's you lose that connection with who's making it, and who's those people, and whether, even if they're not making it, they're in the shop talking passionately about what they're selling, and you don't get that in the supermarket.
And of course, going to the supermarket, you're buying food that's sometimes produced here, exported, and sent back here, processed. So you're circumventing that. So I mean, in a time when, you know, food security is going to be a real problem, COVID partly made it that. Climate change will certainly make it that. Do you think what you're doing, and this is important, what you're doing is helping sustainable farming in the Enfield area? You're championing local producers, helping to be sustainable, and therefore help to develop what will be essential, and that's food self-sufficiency.
Yeah. Well, I really hope so. If I can be even a little part of that, that would be amazing. Yeah. It's I mean, it's just shown the importance, just during the last few months. The uptake of veg bags at Forty Hall Farm went through the roof. At one point, there was 200 people on the waiting list for veg bags, because, you know, people suddenly realised the importance and the risks involved of borders shutting, and not quite knowing where the food might be coming from. We might not be able to rely on that plane flying over with all the mange to, you need to look closer. And Enfield's in a really amazing position because we have the, although we're in London, we still have this agricultural aspect of the, on our as part of our as part of our borough. We have agriculture. We also have diversity of people. We have so many things that work to our borough's advantage. And we can, there's so much potential within Enfield, not only to supply Enfield to our own people, but also to take what we have here and to supply other London boroughs. We've got we're in a really fantastic position here, which we should be proud of.
Right, yeah, certainly you should be. And you said you had 200 people on the waiting list at some point of time. Does that mean when you do the work that you do, you also depend on volunteers? Yeah,
we do. At the vineyard, we do. Because we're certified organic on the farm and in the vineyard. That requires a lot of people power because we're not relying on chemicals and all sorts of easy fixes to grow and contain, look after the land. So that takes a lot of people and a lot of work. So volunteers come into it. But it's a two-way street. You have a lot of volunteers who want to be there. It's a positive experience for them. And it helps the farm and the vineyard to maintain itself. So it's a really lovely synergy.
Okay, well, we're sort of coming to the end of the half hour now, and if people wanted to find out more about what you do, if they wanted to buy your product, if they wanted to be a producer, if they wanted to be a volunteer, where would they go? How would they find out about you?
Let's go through the list. So if you're interested in the farmers market that the Food Gatherer runs, you need to come along on the second Sunday of each month to Forty Hall Farm between 10 and 3, and there you will discover loads of lovely produce and have a great time. Although I have to say things are a little bit constricted at the moment with the current situation, but hopefully that won't last. And then if you want to find out more about the Food Gatherer, go to foodgatherer.com. I've had a terrible hijacking of my, thank you for putting that up, of my website, which used to be thefoodgatherer.com. And my domain was lost in the ether. So now I've had to transfer to foodgatherer.com. So you can visit and find out more about there. If you want to volunteer at the farm, or vineyard specifically, you can email Sheila at fortyhallvineyard.com, or just go onto the website, fortyhallvineyard.com. And if you're interested in being involved at Forty Hall Farm, you can go onto their website, fortyhallfarm.org.uk.
Okay, that was quite a list. So, thank you for telling us about that. I mean, I think the project's very interesting, and I've spoken to quite a lot of people who've been involved in the vineyard and, have benefited by the Food Gatherer. So I know how valuable they think it is. And it is a model. It is a model for a way forward in the future. It's creating a network rather than a hierarchical organizational structure. It's creating a network of people coming together, community building and making a difference. So, I think it's been a really valuable interview and discussion, and I'm really pleased you joined us today and you got on the site. So thank you for doing it. And, we'll end this interview now.